We're going to look at the patch notes, patch notes, by the way. PTB patch notes. Yep. New perks, by the way, we're going to cover those. The ones for killer kind of suck. There might be one option there, but we'll see. Yeah. But 100 ping is still alright. Yeah, Dead by Daylight is not a first-person shooter, and it's still playable. I've played on Ireland server before, and it's not that bad. Killer. It's better with mainly if you play a mouse one killer instead of someone that has projectiles, because the game has like coding issues, but still acceptable and still something you can do. You can't do the split-second Nemi whips like I can on NA, for instance. The meh content? You're meh content. Your name is meh. Sincerely. Oh, you're talking about BHVR. Okay. We're going to cover this here in a second. The new killer, not all that interesting. I'm not going to play the PTB because, as I mentioned, PTB is kind of boring because the kind of players that you get, there's no MMR. The kind of players you get are just there to fuck around. It's not normal gameplay, and as such, really boring, and you can't get a feel for the game anyways. The new killer is basically Tracer. Essentially Tracer, where he can use dashes to catch up to players. So if you can imagine, like, Nurse, he can, like, dash, but he can't dash through walls. And basically the counterplay to him is just vaulting windows. So, yeah, that's basically his counter game, is just vaulting a window. Because he can't dash through windows. There's a couple perks here that we're going to cover. Actually, let's see if because the perks look better on the wiki. Updated. Wiki guy's pretty good. Question mark is here. The perks are here. We're going to take a peek at them. What's a Lago suit? What? Surprisingly, the survivors. There's 2 survivors, and they have 2 independent lists of perks. So the killer got 3 and survivors got 6 perks this update. Yep. Don't worry. That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it, guys. There's a couple perks that are of concern, which we're going to cover here in a second. But let's go over the new killer, which is this guy. He's basically like your commando type from... I never played Resident Evil, but he just strikes me as a commando type person. Like macho commando type guy. Combat knife, yep. So he dashes around, and if he gets you close to you on a second dash, he can just grab you and put you on his shoulder. I think it's only on the second dash. I was watching a little bit of gameplay earlier tonight. But basically, he has to be infected, so it's like Nemesis. Basically, he dashes around, and you just vault a window, and apparently survivors aren't smart enough to figure that out yet. So, yep. I mean, there's a reason that people died to Sadako early on in the PTB too. Sadako actually killed people on PTB. Hilarious. Yeah. Let's take a look here. The interesting thing though with the DLC is not necessarily the characters as much as the perks. Hitting survivor affects him with bound with infection. Hitting survivor already afflicted with infection with a bound attack will increase their infection. Okay, so there's multiple levels. Crashing into something during bound attack will slam nearby survivor, causing damage. If not, the survivor will be thrown, loses a health state. They're thrown into any solid object. Crashing into something during a bound attack will slam nearby survivor, causing damage. What's damage? There's no damage in this game. You don't have a health bar. Not the survivor is thrown and loses a health state. They're thrown into any solid object. Okay. I've seen it before, like you hit them into a wall and you just grab them. Mastermind can barrel forward, infecting survivors with Ouroboros virus or leaping over obstacles. The Mastermind hits a drop pallet or window while using Virulent Bound. He vaults over the obstacle. Depends on what the speed is. Just because you vault it doesn't mean that it's fast. Survivors afflicted with infection suffer hindered, reducing their movement speed by 5%, and infection builds over time. Upon reaching critical infection, the hindered stats effects in strength further reduce movement speed by 8%. That's not much. Actually, I take that back. That's actually pretty significant in terms of looping. Like, negative hope. If the Mastermind hits a critically infected survivor using Virulent Bound, he will automatically begin to carry them. Yep. Fly cases, containing first aid spray, so basically the Nemesis effect. When infected, a survivor can use first aid spray on themselves or other survivors to remove infection. The Moria is a tentacle animation kinks we've been waiting for. Okay, good. BHV wouldn't do anything that get them canceled though, so can only be so good. I guess Bound is just basically his speed teleport. I don't know what to call it. Tracer dash. Two bounds, charge time. You get 0.8 charges a second. That means it'd take you like 2 minutes to get fully infected. That means they can end up in a state where they're just all negative 8% speed because there aren't enough cases. Give my glasses a wash, guys. Funny to see RE join DBD because they've always wanted a game like DBD but filled only with RE content. There's a lot of games that have tried the asymmetrical thing that have fucking failed horribly. Probably one of the better ones is Evolve. And Evolve just shits the bed constantly. I don't know what like they turn the servers on, did they turn them back off again or something? It was on Twitch for a little bit and then just gone again. So I don't know if they like turning stuff on and off. There's still people playing it. Evolve Live, yes, because they want to keep streaming the game that they're known for now. Ah, there's a couple people in the Evolve category because they're hipsters. X-Pro Monster request. Okay. You're a pro in a game that's been dead forever that never had a pro scene? I guess Dead by Daylight has a comp scene, so... yeah. A cheating scene? Yeah, Dead by Daylight has a cheating scene. I mean, comp scene, excuse me. But yeah, I don't expect there to ever be another game like Dead by Daylight, and that's because Dead by Daylight's a really fucking weird game in terms of game mechanics. It's not something that's remotely normal. Like I mentioned before, I compare it most regularly with a board game. Knowing all the facts and the rules of the game is basically a big portion of the game, and what the characters do. It feels a lot like a board game. Is there a case? How many cases are in the trial? The cases might respawn the vials too, depending on how they do things. Yeah. It's like a board game. It's a lot to do with knowing basically the effects. It's not like a first-person shooter or anything. It's a lot of knowing with cause and effects and things that will happen throughout the match that you need to be up to date on, basically. And it's not so much about your personal skill, but rather your strategic and tactical skill when managing everything, which chess has a lot of, or board games have a lot of, depending on which board games you play, right? It has a lot to do with meta overview rather than macro overview, excuse me, rather than micro. But I don't think there's anyone else that has made that comparison. Always ahead of the curve, by the way. Uh-huh. Game's definitely not like a first-person shooter. It's not an RTS. There's nothing like Dead by Daylight. And I hope there's never another game like Dead by Daylight, because this game is so weird in terms of mechanics. It doesn't even make sense. Like, the fucking random generators that you have to repair. Dropping pallets just stops. Like, it's an obstacle, right? A PvE obstacle that just stops the killer from moving. All different sorts of things. Players do not actually have a health bar. They have health states, right? And weird things can happen in different health states. They just put together, like, they had been on shrooms when they made this game. It's so fucking random with just all the random stuff in it. Just, like, the interactions are just fucking random as shit. The stuff that happens, of course, doesn't remotely make sense. It doesn't need you to be a good game, though. Cases... by default, the trial will spawn with 4 supply cases. I think that means that's the same. It's like, because the killer's new, it might not be completely upgraded. Unlike chess, the supply case does not stay open automatically because it's up after 15 seconds. Yeah? Or it's just broken and opens and closes randomly, too, because they haven't fixed that bug yet. Still can't depend on that sound to find a survivor. Cool. So I guess 4? So it is potentially possible to just leave survivors at negative 7% movement speed later in the trial. Interesting. Obviously, that depends on using up all of the vials. Wonder if he has a negative supply case too. No perks yet. Okay. That's the important part, is the perks. Or not the perks, add-ons for the killer. Perks, guys. So, the interesting thing here for killer, the other two kind of suck, but the interesting thing for killer is superior anatomy, which is like a boosted version of bamboozle. It allows you to vault 40% faster when a survivor fast vaults in front of you. So, initial impression is this could be pretty good. Especially if you put it together with bamboozle. It has a 30-second cooldown, though, so if they fast vault and then you fast vault behind them, and you don't catch them, then you're fucked. Cool. But you could still use it with bamboozle. And let's take a look at vault speeds. So window vault speeds are really fucking weird. Killer vaults aren't nearly as fast as survivors. Not windows of opportunity, windows. Let's see. Fast vault. This vault's 0.5 seconds. Medium vault is 0.9 seconds. And a killer vault is 1.7 seconds. Slow vault is 1.5, which is what they do when they're running. So you vault 40% faster, that would be what? The calculator never remembered the size of it. Seven times maybe 0.6. 1 second? I don't think that's right, though. .68. Depending on how they code it, it's probably 1 second, and then Bamboozle I think is 20%, right? But if you use something like this, they literally are never going to vault windows. All they're going to do is just pre-drop pallets if they see you have a build like this. 15% faster. So technically 45% faster. 9.35. So it would basically be just as fast as slow vault, which probably means you catch them. So maybe this could be good for mouse one killer. But once again, if you're a mouse one killer, you're just going to get people pre-dropping pallets. So even if you close off windows, windows are actually a secondary looping mechanic to pallets. Pallets are much more prevalent and much stronger than windows, but windows can completely fuck you up depending on how you're playing your character. But you can also counterplay windows. Like you can play around windows, usually with vaults. Light's still going out, guys. So, I don't know if you'd want this. So if you use this perk, obviously it would help you with windows, right? Obviously this perk will help you with windows, but if you use this perk, you might just run into a scenario where people aren't going to run windows, and then you're going to be down basically 1 or 2 perks if you have Bamboozle or not. So not sure whether or not I'd actually want this. Command & Conquer sucked, excuse me. Wait, what? I actually, like, when I was younger, I played Command & Conquer, and it actually just never really struck me compared to other RTS games that were out at the time, like Age of Empires and StarCraft. Rise of Nations. There's a lot of really cool RTS games back in the day that they don't have anymore because RTS games don't sell. A lot of people are not into RTS games. Command & Conquer is one of the first experiences I've had with mirror balancing, and is why I consider mirror balancing inferior to be just actually balancing a game. Mirror balancing is when you have both sides that are almost identical to each other, and you just give each other duplicate stats. Command & Conquer, depending on which version of Command & Conquer you're playing, is generally mirror balanced, and then they just have like a couple units that are different compared to the other races. I don't remember the exacts because I've played a bunch of different Command & Conquers over the years, and I don't remember any of them. But, yeah, Command & Conquer, like RTSs in general, from my experience, aren't really fun to play against people because they always figure out the whorish strategy to win. In StarCraft 2, for instance, it's a lot of resource harassment, and not a fan of that. Not a fan of microing units and having to manage my resource income, like micromanage my resource income. I find it super fucking annoying. And then you have to build in a certain way to prevent that from happening by walling off certain areas with certain buildings and shit like that, and just... StarCraft is what I consider real-time tactics more so than real-time strategy, in that it's mainly about engagements and micro rather than about macro. So overview of the field strategies that you implement, rather it's about just like counter building and direct confrontation and picking when you direct confront and what happens in that confrontation. But anyways, sidetrack here. So this perk, while it sounds kind of great, you have to understand that Windows, even if they made Windows kind of pointless, which is what Bamboozle essentially does, by the way, that only does so much for you. So I don't even know if this is that useful. It sounds good, but once again, once survivors realize that you're going to vault 40% faster, they're probably just going to run and pre-drop pallets on you. And at high MMR, similarly, where survivors know what the fuck they're doing, they're just going to pre-drop pallets on you, and then your perks aren't going to do jack shit. But we'll see. Might be wrong on that. There's a couple other ones here. While carrying a survivor, the auras of all other survivors. Oh, by the way, talking about True not going out of his way, I just remember, I watched his channel for like maybe 10 minutes and watched him get shit on, and then kind of complain about it in a passive-aggressive way. I watched him this morning. He looked at a guy's profile, saw that he was a comp player, and had a VAC ban, and then didn't dodge the guy. He's like, whatever, a bunch of people have VAC bans. And you're like, why would you even play that game? Like, you weren't required to play against people, right? Like, you can dodge. It doesn't mean anything. You can dodge whoever the fuck you want. If someone has a VAC ban, that's an immediate dodge for me. I don't give a shit. If they're a reformed player of the internet, I kind of fucking doubt it, especially in Dead by Daylight. But like he saw the vac ban, he even commented on it, and he just didn't care that the guy had a vac ban. He was like, yeah, it was like a relatively new one too. I was like, oh my god. Had a guy yesterday that had 2 vac bans on his account. Yeah, doesn't stop at 1. Multiple vac bans. Yep. Totally reformed player. It doesn't mean anything, guys. Don't worry. I'm sure they don't cheat. Fucking weird stuff. Like, where you put yourself in a position where you just get shit on. Like, part of it's your responsibility. Obviously getting shit on is the other person doing it to you, right? But you put yourself in a position where people do that to you. When you can avoid it, you could just avoid the situation, right? But segue aside here, guys. Sidebar aside. Yeah. So there's a perk that allows you to see survivors when you're carrying a survivor for within 20 meters. So I guess this would help you if you get dicked on. You should just run Mad Grit. If you're having problems with this, there's anti-zerging perks. Mad Grit's one of them. STBFL, Forced Penance, Starstruck. There's a lot of other perks that would do what this does much better. This is a worthless perk. I can't imagine a scenario where this would actually be good. Terminus. When exit gates are powered, Terminus activates. All injured, dying, or hook survivors suffer from broken until the exit gates are opened. So they're just broken if they're in the hurt state. Essentially, this is like Forced Penance, only it only works after the exit gates are powered. Garbage perk. There's almost no point in using that. You could just use NOED too. You could just use NOED too, and it would be much better. But you know, whatever. Yeah. So the only perk here of interest is Superior Anatomy from Killers this go round, which is this one right here. And once again, windows are kind of tertiary. Tertiary. Maybe not. Or basically a secondary thing. It doesn't really matter that much. Windows compared to taking care of pallets. Pallets are a much bigger deal throughout instances, and something that you really have to find a way of dealing with compared to Windows. Windows being just kind of something that happens, and they do eventually get blocked too if they're really strong. The built-in blocker, which once again Windows have not a lot, but they have counterplay unless they're running a long window loop, in which case all you can do is chase after them, which is why cheaters do that. In TL loop, it will help. There's mind games in TL loops, assumingly, unless they're cheating. There's mind games in it where you can fake directions you're looking with your light. TLs have a decent amount of mind game. That's why I mentioned before, Windows have mind game for the most part. And even if like you have a window you're having problems with, you can mind game the survivor to vault it and then close it preemptively without just running it. Long window loops you can't, which is why cheaters always go for them, because all they have to do is just W key. You just go around 3 times till it closes, and there's nothing you can do about it. Absolutely nothing you can do about it. So, and Bamboozle would fix that much better than Superior Anatomy would, so. Like, I wouldn't imagine, usually I won't vault the TL unless I mind game the TL, but once again, even if they aren't vaulting the window and I mind game the window instead of the outside of the TL, that's still mind game. And this would help, I guess, with that, but once again, once people figure it out, they're just going to pre-drop pallets on you, and most maps have pallets where they can pre-drop, so they're just going to play the pallet and pre-drop you, and then you're going to get fucked by it. Pre-drop is very, very difficult to deal with for killers. So, Killer basically doesn't have a whole lot of anything going on here. I think I'd rather run Bamboozle, but this might actually give you a leg up. I could see a position where this, compared to Bamboozle, would give you an opportunity to catch a survivor. But at the same time, once the survivor figures out you have this perk, they probably aren't going to run Windows. They're going to avoid Windows again, so you'll probably get maybe a down out of it if they aren't cheating and know you have the perk from the get-go. But we'll see how it works in implementation. In this one, however, the survivors have some problematic perks here, which we're going to cover. Oh my god, don't care. Yeah, so the problematic things here is they have something that allows basically people to see, not this one by the way, just covering perks here. This is a perk that allows people to go away. I don't care about your fandom page, fuck off. No one cares about the website that's hosting this, please. This one basically allows you to see when a killer goes to tap a gen, is what that is. And it doesn't look like it has a cooldown, it's just 33% progress on a gen, which is like 30 seconds. This one is fucking weird. They have, it looks like they're kind of going on an anti-tunnel binge here, on anti-tunnel and camp binge. When another survivor loses a health state within 32 meters of your location, while you're in an injured state, you benefit from the following effects. Grants 35% of your missing health progress. So potentially, if your entire team takes protection hits around you, you can gain a health state. Yeah. I don't, like, that's only going to be useful in certain cases, but it's potentially could be a very useful perk. But in the get-go, unless you're doing, like, swift plays here, this might not be very good. It's like free kindred. You mean this one? I don't like kindred at all. Kindred is just really fucking good. If you need intel, Kindred and Spine Chill are very, very good at what they do. This one isn't really Kindred at all. It allows you to see if basically a guy goes to tap the gen. And allows your teammates to react to it. So I guess this would help with coordination in non-Swift, which non-Swifts don't really matter at all, so this isn't really that good of a perk. And once again, I think Kindred's much better, because there will almost always be someone on the hook, and everyone can see everyone's position when someone's... No, that's when you're on the hook, otherwise you can see everyone's position. For solo survivor, Kindred basically does everything you need for intel, for the most part. And then helps your team coordinate with each other when you're the one that gets hooked, which is, once again, very useful. But not very good. This one could be problematic in Swifts, but even then, it's not too. Like, getting 3 people to take protection hits is kind of rare. This could be annoying against Ultra Swifts, where they do the heal up. They have 2 people in chase with you while you're chasing someone, so 3 people are in chase, and then 2 people will just take protection hits and they'll rotate out and heal each other. So that could potentially be useful in that scenario, but I don't think this being that common. It could be useful, but it remains to be seen. If this was 50%, this would be very problematic. When you become the last survivor remaining in the trial, low profile activates, suppresses your pools of blood and scratch marks for 90 seconds. That is absurd. That is absolutely fucking absurd. Another reason to slug for 4K right there. And even then, you're going to get DC exploit for Hatch. That is absolutely absurd. Good. Yeah, just give out that free hatch. Got to make sure that the survivor has no chances of being found before the hatch is closed. Good shit. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous, guys. So even if you're in a hurt state, you're not. It's not gonna. Killer's not gonna see anything. Really want to get that 4th player out, guys. They don't want killers actually trying to get a 4K. Wouldn't want that. This probably will be run, maybe slightly uncommon, but I think this is going to be a perk. There's a lot of options for survivors, by the way. Just because there isn't a firmed up meta yet, does not mean that there are not options for survivors. But this is more reason to slug for Hatch. Slug for 4K. Yeah, it's not going to change how I play at all. Now on to the problematic perk, guys. Let's see where that is. Oh, not there yet. Upon completing a healing action or another survivor, they benefit from the following effects for the next 35 seconds. Increase their action speed, healing, and repairing of unhooking and cleansing by 6%. What? Yeah, so... if you heal another survivor, they just get 6% to everything for 35 seconds. At least it's not move speed. No move speed and volt speed. I mean, you could have just done everything, right, BHVR? Why not? Why stop there? It's only 35 seconds, but heals are very common, especially against Ultra Swifts, and this might be a reason to run Force Penance again, and I'm contemplating about bringing Force Penance back, especially after our games last night. This is the problem one, guys. Once again, it looks like they're trying to target tunneling and camping. When within 6 meters of a hook survivor, press the active ability button to halt the sacrifice process for the next 30 seconds. If hook survivor has already entered struggle phase, its skill checks are paused for that duration. So this is, depending on how this works, this could work one of two ways. One is they have to be within 6 meters, which, alright, this is kind of balanced. The other one is they do a drive-by. If they're just allowed to drive by within 6 meters of the hook, take a protection hit and run away, and put this on their friend for 30 seconds, this is absolutely absurd. This isn't just tunneling and camping, this is going to affect all killers. This is going to affect every one of the killers. Because this means people have more time just to idle on hooks. That's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah, and then as a 40-second cooldown, but it doesn't state whether or not multiple people can do this, so you could have a team with this that can just drive by the hook and just tap 30 seconds on the hook and then leave. Oh, what? And this just doesn't affect me, by the way. This affects, like, literally everyone. This isn't just tunneling and camping. This affects everyone. Yeah, so you can't play around the hook timer anymore. It depends. If they have to be within 6 meters, the counterplay to this, obviously, is just slugging the guy. Can you link a Twitter post? Yes. Sure thing, dude. Yeah, so this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad, guys. Once again, whether or not the PTB's out, and I'm not going to play it, but depending on which way this works, one way is the player has to be within 6 meters to give that guy 30 seconds. The other one is he can get within 6 meters and then just run away. And unlike kinship, this does not take up a perk slot of everyone on your fucking team. And this seems to stack, which implies that all 4 players could have this and literally just tap it next to someone over and over and over again. Yeah, it doesn't even need to be 4 people, it could just be 2 because the cooldown would come up soon enough. So you could just have 2 people drive by the hook, take a hit, and just run away. So if this is drive-by reassurance, this is an absolutely broken perk. If it's a perk where they have to be within 6 meters, let's say they're playing Hooksy, right? So they're going up there and just, doing the hand raise thing, which cheaters have the ability just to keep you from ever pulling them in the first place because of no pull. If they go and do that, that means they have an additional 30 seconds. That would be painful, but would not be the end of the world, especially because it would take up another one of the survivors. If the survivor's sitting there, you have 2 people. You have access to the guy on the hook, and you have the access to the guy that's playing Hooksy with you. If both players are sitting there jerking off, that means that they aren't doing anything throughout the game. 30 seconds is still a long time, though. And they should actually, I'm pretty sure, I think they should actually convert the struggle meter into a number at this point. Killers need to be able to see whether or not it's moving or not, and you can't right now. Because of the way the nuanced works in the struggle meter, it is very difficult to see what's actually fucking going on. So, yeah, sometimes people have kinship and you can't tell. And I'm also pretty sure when someone goes for an unhook, they go for a grab, it actually stops the timer too. We've talked about this before, but I'm pretty sure when people just sit here and go like this constantly, the timer doesn't move. I don't know if that's intentional or not, and I'm still debating on whether or not that's happening or not. But the animation time of which you raise your arms and before you go down, before you redo it again, there's no struggle time while that happens. I'm pretty sure that happens, so they can actually stop the struggle timer by spamming unhook. Yeah. Which is also pretty broken, and that's obviously just built into survivors, but it wasn't something that most people encounter unless you've actually played the game. Yeah. Yeah. They should stay. If to be balanced, they'd have to stay near the hook. If they just drive by and tap the button and then leave, this is absolutely broken as shit. They can use it as a way to, I guess, technically harass the survivor too. And there's no cooldown. Jesus fucking Christ. Like I said before, BHVR has this hidden agenda team for survivors in their game. Yes, kinship too. So kinship is a little bit different. It requires you to have the perk in the first place. So if you are getting tunnel and camped a lot, having kinship could really help you out, just like DS could help you out, even though people say DS is dead. Yep. Is this on Reddit right now? So, looks like this is broken. Once again, whether or not they actually need to be near the hook is going to be the telling sign. That's very problematic. That is incredibly problematic. If all they do is do a drive-by, because you can safely do a drive-by, pretty much with any killer, you can safely do a drive-by the hook in a full health state and get away. Even Bamboozle, or not Bamboozle, even Bubba, you can safely get within 6 meters of the hook without going down, because he has to rev his chainsaw, right? And if you come in from a side, from a hidden angle, he won't be able to rev and get you in time. So, yeah. That's a problem, guys. Depends on how common it is, but even if it's not common, just one guy on the team will completely fuck things up. Because then he can just leave for 30 seconds, do whatever the fuck he wants. But if 2 people have it, they probably could, because they have overlapping times, they could just go in and just keep recirculating past hook. That's a lot of time. Meanwhile, Killer has Monster Shrine, which is super OP according to Twitter. According to Reddit's, Monster Shrine is absolutely OP as shit. And what is that? Reduces their time on the hook by 20%. Meanwhile, they can be on the hook for 2 minutes, and this increases their time 25% per use. Yeah. That's pretty broken. Good shit. We'll see, though. But this is sounding an awful lot. They press the active ability button. This sounds an awful lot like they can just run past and just use it, versus actually having to stand within 6 meters of the hook. And this is like a reverse Merciless Storm. So Merciless Storm was the skill check storm, which sucks dick. So it allows you to basically keep getting skill checks, and the bonus progression is up to 30%. Per token, and you can have up to 6 tokens, which is 180%. If people are cheating, I mean, if people are cheating, they can just speed up gens anyways. But if you don't miss great skill checks, this could be incredibly useful. There's no downside to it either. Not super OP, though. Reassurance is definitely broken as shit. Yeah, I mean, survivors do, so. They just do whatever survivor wants. Yeah, oh yeah, because that definitely happens in high MMR games. I think in the game I mentioned earlier with the cheater lobby, True got 1 hook, and then the survivors started fucking around with them at the end of the game. The one game I watched, with the VAC ban in it, the survivors gave him 1 hook, and then they just stopped doing gens. He was down to like 1 gen within like 2 minutes of the game, and then they just stopped doing gens and started fucking around with him. So basically, hubris and ego. He got like a 2K, but that's because the survivors just fucked around when they could have ended the game and just left. Like that game yesterday with the Ultra Swift cheat lobby that we got on Chapel or Asylum. This is Chapel. On Chapel, those guys had 2 gens. There's 2 gens left, and they had 2 gens 99, and they're working 2 other gens. There might even been more than 2 gens that were 99. They just have a bunch of random gens that are 99 while just fucking around doing shit. And I mentioned before, it's definitely a cheat lobby. And they're just doing random shit while it's chasing down on Nia. Doesn't mean you win at the end if you get pity chases. That's not a win. You can pretend it's a win, but that's not a win because they handed it to you. Fucking pity chases. Yeah, it is. Or when people are stream sniping you. Stream sniping and cheating. Yeah, that also changes the game a lot. Yeah, this is definitely a big deal, especially if they know who they're playing against. You can surely bet that they're going to have this perk. So, unlike kinship, you're going to see a lot more use of this because it doesn't require you to be the one that's on the hook. So, people taking kinship doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get hook camped, right? Whereas, if you're on the team and you just have this, you literally can just go and, I guess, tap it and run away. Yeah, that's pretty fucking broken. That's pretty broken, but I guess that's the way it's going to be, so, yeah. If they have to stand within 6 meters of the hook and play hooksy with me, I'm alright with this, but if all they have to do is drive by and take a protection hit and run away with their overcome, yeah. Like, I literally could see them just running up to the hook, hitting this button, and then they're going to take a hit, probably take a hit, but you won't be able to tell because they might be running by to play hooksy with you, or they might just be running to use as a perk. And if they take a hit, they're just going to run away with overcome probably paired with this and get a huge amount of distance, and you won't be able to catch them at all either. You're fucked. You're out of the hook that you're on, and you're out of the survivor that you could have changed off to chase down. So, yeah, there's this, guys. This is kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Once again, there's multiple ways to play this game. There's normal regression play, which BHVR did a pretty heavy hit to, but still exists. There's hook camping and tunneling. Although, excuse me, camping. You can tunnel through any of the ones. You can tunnel with any of the 3 playstyles. So there's regression, there is tunneling, excuse me, camping, and then there's also slugging. And slugging, you can use a combination of the above, right? And use it with tunneling. It's tactics and strategies that you can use throughout the game. And they've definitely went out of their way to fuck with all of them. We're Gonna Live Forever very much fucks with slugging, although the perk does not seem to be common. It depends an awful lot. So, like, there is a way definitely to build a build to completely, if you know who you're going against, you can definitely fuck them up super hardcore. Because you can build against them, which is another reason that's very important for you not to know who you're going against. It is incredibly important because if they know, they can run fucking things like kinship and reassurance, or if they know you slug, they're gonna run like We're Gonna Live Forever, so other perks. Cooldown. I mean, the cooldown is 40 seconds. There is a cooldown, more cooldown, but it wouldn't matter. Where this, like, 40 seconds isn't that much to begin with because it's 30 seconds. But if you have 2 people, like, it just completely changes the way the perk works. So, like, they have to make it like 80 seconds or something weird. Or maybe allow people to only use it once per hook player. But right now, this is another thing that's going to stack. Like, endurance stacking was obnoxious. You're going to see this. I really want that 4th player to escape. And which once again is another reason you slug for 4K. How long did that perk last for, too? "90 seconds. 90 seconds after the last guy dies. 3rd guy dies. I don't know. I guess we'll remain to see. Remains to be seen. Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be infinite. Actually, no, it would be infinite. I think with 3 people it would be infinite. Well, that's basically 1 person with me on a hook, so it's 3 people. 2 people, it's not infinite. No, actually, I think even with 2 people it's infinite, too. Yeah, as long as you overlap the 1 person's cooldown. So 2 people, it's infinite too. You don't even need a complete pyramid. 2 people will make it infinite. Once again, it depends on whether or not they have to be within 6 meters while this perk is running, or if they can just do a drive-by, which sounds an awful lot like you can just do drive-bys, which is what makes it broken. I don't know, guys. I'm definitely not I'm not going to play Regression Dead by Daylight because that's fucking dead at high MMR. There's no way you can play. One of the reasons I don't do it is because you can't do it. You can't play normally at high MMR. So maybe I'm just going to end up playing Nurse. Or maybe we'll just go back to our Endurance build. We're going to go back to Endurance build where we're just going to sit in the basement with Bubba or something. Or one-shot Myers. This feels an awful lot like Endurance stacking bullshit all over again. Depending on how common this is, we might switch to Plan B, which is Basement Bubba or Tombstone Myers. Yeah. Or I guess get really good at Nurse. I guess that's their options. So something where they can't just go and completely fuck things up. Even Basement Bubba, like, I'm pretty sure they could probably use it upstairs. I don't know how far 6 meters is. If you're in the basement, they either have to come down the stairs, or they could use it above him. If they can use it from the floor above, then it completely throws it off, right? They just walk over the top of the location. But if they have to come down the stairs, which let's say you hook them on the far side, opposite of the stairs, and they have to come down the stairs to use the perk in the first place, they wouldn't be able to do it. So it really depends on how far 6 meters actually is, and they might tweak it if they find out it doesn't work on the kill dungeon. Yeah, so I guess Plan B is coming back, guys, which is Basement Bubba or One-Shot Myers, where we just insta-kill people. We're not playing for hooks. There's no way to play for hooks at high MMR. It doesn't work. You can't play for 12 hooks at high MMR. So I guess maybe the other option is multi-tunnel, which is much less efficient tunneling, and depending if they know what's going on. You can't always multi-tunnel too because you don't always get line of sight on people and you don't always know where they are. So if you have 2 people that are death hook, if the team's playing well, they might just hide them forever and you'll never find them. And there's almost nothing you can do about that. You have to choose the multi-tunnel. Multi-tunneling relies on the enemy team being oblivious to the idea that you can multi-tunnel. Because the moment they figure it out, they just hide their death hook. Yeah, so multi-tunneling doesn't even work. I think what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to end up playing, if this goes live with just drive-bys, which it probably is going to because this doesn't affect everyone, we're probably going to end up playing like, we'll see how common the perk is in the first place. But once again, I think it depends an awful lot on if they know who they're going against. Tombstone Myers or Basement Bubba, or play Nurse. By the way, like tunneling and camping, despite me doing it, is not very common on Twitch. Like from a transparent point of view, so from everyone else, it is not very common, right? If you look at Twitch, there's still people, no, recently, not so much, but if you look at Twitch for a long time, there's no one that would tunnel or camp, and I was one of the first people that would tunnel and camp on Twitch. Not that it's new, but rather people want to do it because it's uncouth, and most of the people that watch on Twitch are just Survivor mains, so they want to get that sweet, sweet money, and they aren't going to get it if they tunnel and camp. Yeah. But survivors have made enough of a ruckus about tunneling and camping that it looks like BHVR is directly fronting it. Even though there's already been a perk in the game to deal with it, which is kinship, survivors refuse to run it. Which is kind of fucking weird. We don't talk about kinship because I don't want people to run it, but it's literally a direct counter to tunneling and camping. Kinship only works once too. I believe. Perks are balanced. The death hook or both hook states? So it works in both hook states? Yeah, so they have to be, a survivor has to be within 16 meters of your hook, and the struggle phase timer is paused for 34 seconds, so only the struggle phase. And within 16, so it only works for one phase, and a survivor has to be within 16 meters for it to work. Which, pretty good. But then they added a broken perk where a survivor can just drive by and add 30 seconds to your timer. Wholesome tunneling and camping, yeah. So at high MMR, it just turns into stopping survivors from even playing the game is basically what it comes down to. Is just like going more and more nuclear, just trying to stop survivors from doing anything at all. I haven't used the kill dungeon in a while because basically we don't play during degenerate hour. But that's not really even an option because they can once again just come down, and unless you're playing Bubba, you can't just insta-down them. You probably could with Shape maybe, even without Tombstone. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know, guys. That's just the way it is. So, upcoming patch, killers are getting fucked down pretty hard. So, you got that to look forward to. Or tunneling campies get fucked down pretty hard. Camping is getting fucked down pretty hard, not tunneling. I think maybe what you have to do is you have to encourage people to proxy camp. Encourage people to unhook early. And then unhook early again. So you're not as obviously camping the hook. But once again, that just relies on survivors not knowing who you are, what you're doing, which doesn't work when they know who they're playing against. Oh, guys. Anyways, there's more to the patch than just this, by the way. We covered the perks. Let's take a look at another feature here that's pretty cool is they're properly implementing streamer mode in the game. Yay! Yay! So after 5 years, 6 years now, 7 years. How long has Dead by Daylight been out? 2015, right? 7 years. Right? 2016. So after 6 years, guys, after this game being out for 6 years, they finally added a stream mode to the game. Yeah. Good. So I don't need to constantly rotate names. I might still need to rotate names once again, because if people have if they have a killer revealer, so they can see the killer's name, they can see your Steam page and shit like that, you might still need to fucking rotate your username, despite the fact that they're not supposed to be able to see it. They might still be able to see your name, so yeah, this helps with casual stream sniping for sure. Basically, they added all the options that Fortnite has, and Fortnite has a pretty good swath of options. I think they covered pretty much everything, which is replaces your account name with your selected character's name for other players. Players in your group will not see your account name. Okay, good. Hide your name replaces your own name with your selected character's name on your own screen. Elsewhere in menus, your account name will appear as you and be hidden from your friends list. Good. So this is when you're in the lobbies in the UE. People can't see your name in the top right corner. That's also good. Hide other players' names replaces other players' names with their selected character names. Also very good. And matchmake delay in case people want to do it. Almost no one uses that in Fortnite because people think it doesn't matter when it definitely does. In this game, I don't think it matters that much because you're waiting on queues anyways, but nice to have regardless. So, they finally added modes that actually matter for streaming instead of just hiding the enemy's username. Because that should be a thing for some reason. I don't know why this wasn't implemented in the first place. It shouldn't have taken that much to replace literally a name variable with you. But here we are, guys. Yeah. So they improved connection indicators too. Not really a big deal, but I guess for some people Packet loss, ping, this is all stuff. 100 ms is pretty high, and 200 ms is red. So the weird thing though is they've added indicators for the killer too. So you not necessarily you can see the ping of the killer, but rather now you can see if the killer's having connection issues. Your own ping packet loss icons are displayed above the survivor list. Players are notified when another player is experiencing severe connection issues. Red, yeah, so you can see everyone else. Red for ping and packet loss. So you can't see yellow though, and yellow's generally people that play across the ocean. We run into people frequently that have 105 to 140 ms, pretty much every other game. So weirdly enough, yeah. Killer issues unique red icon appears above the survivor list for survivors, so survivors can now see when the killer's having connection issues to a certain extent. But they still can't see your ping. I'm not exactly sure why they hide your ping. When they could put like the killer's username there, but not like the player name, but rather the killer. Just the name of the killer and the ping there. Not exactly sure why they hide the killer ping. That's kind of a weird one. Survivor issues a red bar appears next to their name on the survivor lists. Okay. So more connection. Connectivity, transparency, that's alright. That's good. Nothing super amazing there. Nothing out of the ordinary that I, like, wow, this is so great to have. But I guess for some people that might be having problems with their Wi-Fi because their mom turns on the microwave. We occasionally have mom turn on the microwave and then I DC from the game. I occasionally have, usually when Ormond pops up in the offering or or Haddonfield. And then mom turns on the microwave because I have anxiety. So, yeah, that kind of happens. But yeah, so this is pretty good. But once again, if people are cheating, this might not even matter. And the real big problem in this game is definitely cheating. So regardless of this being in the game, depending on how they hide your username, it might not actually hide your username from the other team. They might still be able to see it or uncover it or something like that. We'll have to wait and see. Sometimes people can get around options like this. We'll see, but it's good to have nonetheless, especially for normal players. 100% happy with this. Good. It says PC only. Probably because it's hard to implement on console. Because of the way that usernames work on console. Is my guess. PC only includes globes, by the way. Globes are not just console. Globes include Stadia, Epic Store, Windows Store. When people have globes does not mean they're immediately on console. And there's a lot of people that used to assume, and still do, sometimes incorrectly, that people, if they have a globe, they're on console. It's not true at all, especially when people are cheating. They like using the Epic Store or Windows Store. Cool. Well, tunnelers are going to get hit pretty hard. Once again, it depends on how common the perk is, and we'll have to consider Plan B options, which is just to straight out kill survivors, or just fucking sit in the KD and hope for a 2K. Because you cannot play at high MMR, you cannot just run around randomly, hit survivors, and go, hee hee, oh my god, they heal so fast, guys. Wow, they're healing so fast. Yeah, of course they are. Because they're literally on voice comms coordinating everything, you stupid piece of shit. Yeah. You literally can't just run around hitting random people. It'd be nice if you could, but that's not the way the game works. It's not punishing enough when you hit people for it to actually matter, especially when they have medkits. Which other streamers that do that complain about when they do hit and run constantly. Weird. Hit and run is not a strategy you can do anymore. Would be nice if you could, but it's not. There's too many ways to heal in the game, and overpowered ways to heal in the game. That's even putting aside circle healing. Even prior to that, they still had healing orgies and shit. So, alrighty guys, covered most of this. Yeah, took the majority of the podcast. I guess we're just gonna hop right into, let's do